I just want to take some time to introduce our speaker today. Before I do that...
Sorry, getting situated.
No, you're good. It's a privilege to be in ministry, but sometimes it's even more beautiful when you know your ministry spills over into other people. And that's especially true of my dad jokes. Because this week, quite a few people text me with their dad jokes. And that's how I know my ministry is just working for God. Because many people are just feeling the effect. I was going to tell a suitcase joke, but I'm still unpacking it. Thank you very much, everyone. I do this thing every time, and they love it. This is why they love me being their pastor. It's my privilege today to introduce to you Lauren Zarabia. I don't even know, is that how you pronounce your name? Oh, okay, I did it correctly. Okay, Lauren Zarabia. She does not come alone. This Jesus lookalike over there, if you turn and see, that's her husband, Armando. And I've known Lauren for quite a while, but recently, was it this year? Yeah, this year at camp meeting, she came and spoke to the young adults. And she had a mandate to talk about something quite specific, and she blew it out the park. I thought it was amazing. But I'm inviting her to here today not just to speak, but to also engage, because I feel like what she has to present is so relevant for the here and now. And I feel like it's something that we also need to lean into. She'll tell you a bit more about maybe why she's that interested in this kind of area and stuff. But for now, I'm asking for you to please lend her your ears and your attention. When she has finished, we will have the opportunity to engage as a church and hopefully go deeper. So I present to you Lauren Zarabia.
Thank you. Thank you. I would just like to start with a word of prayer, if you would humor me. Heavenly Father, I just invite you into this space. I just ask that your presence would be here as we wrestle, as we discuss, that you would just fill our minds. May we be open, may we have open hands to just receive what you have for us this morning. Amen. I want to just kind of ground us into this present moment for a moment with a little disclaimer, perhaps. This may be a triggering talk for some of you. This may be an experience that you've lived, someone you know has lived this experience. Maybe this is something that you're very aware of, and maybe it's not. Maybe this is something you don't know a lot about, or maybe this is something you have a lot of preconceived ideas about. Whatever feelings come up for you, I invite you to lean into them. If it makes you uncomfortable, I invite you to ask why. If it makes you feel something inside, I want you to lean into that and figure out why it is that you feel that, okay? So I'm going to invite you to close your eyes with me, and I want you to imagine this. You grow up imagining what your life would be like. You're well-liked, you have lots of friends. You didn't grow up with a lot, but you were pushed in your education. You work hard, you get good grades, you meet your goals that you set for yourself. You start your career, you sacrifice, you work hard, and you make something of yourself. You wake up one day, and people that look like you are being killed in their homes. Because of who you work for, you're now being looked for. You can hear screams and pleads for help. You manage to run to a nearby city, and you stay with family friends who let you into their home. You know it's only a matter of time before somebody finds you. But what do? You have a choice. You go on to the US where your sister lives and claim asylum, or you go to a neighboring country and live as a refugee, waiting to be resettled somewhere elsewhere. Option 1, you're with people you know, You won't be able to work until your paperwork comes through, which could take a long time. But option 2, you wait in a place where you know no one and you're not wanted there either. So you would have to wait in a refugee camp. And it could take years for your case to be chosen for resettlement. What do? You can open your eyes. This story is the story of so many who have sat in my office and cried because this is truly where their story begins and not ends. Perhaps you end up in the US through various pathways, but now your problems only multiply. You can't work. You live with your sister who has her own life, her own friends, and they're struggling to pay rent themselves. You don't speak very much English, so it's hard to navigate anything. The grocery store is a very strange place. It's clear you aren't wanted here either. It takes a little longer for you to figure out how to pay at the grocery store line. People rush you and yell things at you that you don't understand. What causes people to end up in the US? Fear of persecution for religion, creed, tribe, nationality, or political affiliation is the UN's definition of a refugee. People leave their homes because they have no choice. Humans love stability, familiarity, and most humans don't wake up one day and decide that they would like to move their whole life, their family, to a new place where they don't have the same religion, beliefs, customs, or a place where their education and job experience now means nothing. And where they don't speak the language. And they do this all what? Just for fun? They leave because their lives and the lives of their children are endangered. And in order to ensure that their children have a future, they sacrifice everything. Let's look at some immigration terms. Forced displaced. Forced displaced is a term where people are forced to leave their country of origin, their city of origin. There are 110 million displaced people in the world right now. That's probably a little bit more, but this is what the UN had put out recently. So some people that fall under this forcibly displaced people are refugees, asylees, asylum seeker, SIVs, humanitarian parolees, and IDPs, which we're going to define now. So let me go this way. Okay. So a refugee is someone that has left their country of origin to seek safety in another country due to circumstances that make it unsafe for them to return due to specific circumstances. And the UN kind of frames this on the basis of race, religion, nationality, member of political, social, or political opinion. An asylee, I'm going to go this way. An asylee is somebody who has fled their country of origin and been granted asylum under international safety law. So they've left their country of origin and they've come to a border and been granted asylum. Unlike a refugee that fled their country of origin is in another country waiting to be resettled in a third country. An asylum seeker is someone that flees their country of origin, asks to be granted asylum at the border, but is often put into this pending category of asylum seeker. And that could be because they're waiting for their court date. There's many different reasons why people get put as an asylum seeker, but they're waiting for their status, which would make them an asylee. A special immigrant visa is somebody who were an Afghan that worked with the US military in the Afghan war and is now given a pathway to citizenship upon arrival in the US. A parolee, or humanitarian parolee, is a term of someone who is fleeing their country and given temporary status in the US. This is often temporary, but it's somebody who is waiting to either go home to their home country if things clear up and they feel safe to, or if they would like to adjust their status to another permanent status here in the US. TPS is another one of these statuses that is offered to someone temporary protection with the hopes of being able to return when things are safe. So there's many different terms in this realm of immigration. So I want to give you this visual of 110 million displaced people in the world. 62.5 million of those are internally displaced people, meaning they had to leave one part of their country and go to another. So if something happened here, there was a natural disaster, Mount Rainier blew up, we couldn't live here anymore, we would have to flee to the East Coast and we would be internally displaced. 36.4 million refugees in the world, meaning someone that has left their country of origin is waiting in a second country, and they're usually put in refugee camps because that country does not want them to assimilate into their country. They want them to stay in their own little area. And then there's 6.1 million asylum seekers in the world. So those are people that are waiting for their asylum to be processed. Less than 1% of refugees in the world will ever be resettled into another country. So I'm going to just leave it here for a second. Oops. So you wonder why people come the way that they do. We haven't created a pathway for safety. And the countries that are allowing various populations to enter and assimilate is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. When people are referred to as a criminal, it's not criminal. They're following the legal pathway given to them. When someone checks in because they are on parole, it's not criminal parole, it's immigration parole. They're going to the courthouse for their court date. It's for immigration, not criminal. The immigration court system does not even sit under the judicial court system. It's its own court system. When they sit in front of a judge, they're not sitting in front of a judicial judge. They're sitting in front of an immigration ordained person that stands in for that. They're not even a real judge. So it's important for us to get our terms right. You can't be illegal if you're following the pathway provided for you. You can't be a criminal if you're following the pathway. But I suppose you can be treated like one. The situation that's happening now is people are arriving legally with one of these statuses, and then the status is being revoked, leaving them vulnerable for deportation because they are now considered illegal. When in reality, they did everything correctly, that the government just decided that they weren't welcome here anymore. So when faced with the decision, do they return home to a place that is dangerous that they fled in the first place, or do they live under the radar here, trying to avoid their family being separated by deportation and struggling to make a living without proper documentation or legal work status? Let's talk about the law. Our history is full of people who have broken man's law, but that doesn't mean that they were on the wrong side of morality. The law doesn't mean things are just or right. The law is created by man, but morality is created by Christ. Our history is full of men's laws that are upheld segregation, oppression, discrimination. So when people say they broke the law, they didn't come the legal way. Ask yourself, did Rosa Parks break the law when she refused to give up her seat? Yes. Was she wrong? She once said, "You should never be fearful for what you're doing when you're doing the right thing." Did slaves running for their lives break the law? Yes. Were they wrong? Jesus himself was arrested and executed under the law of man. Jesus broke the law. Acts 5:29 is the apostles' response to when they were asked to stop spreading the gospel. We must obey God rather than man. But what happens when the law itself is broken? When the law is keeping people marginalized? Then what? That's the real question. The melting pot, the cultural diversity, the thing that made America great. The immigrants that our country were built on are now the thing that divides us. We have built a country that doesn't have patience, understanding, or empathy when welcoming people as our neighbors. We want them to speak English, drive better, take certain jobs, and not wear certain things. When did loving people become conditional? When did loving people start being about if this, then what? If they come legally, if they speak English, if they do the things that I want them to? Loving people is biblical. Loving people is helping them navigate the grocery store. Loving them is helping them find jobs and support their families and pay their rent. Loving people is about knowing that every person is made in the image of God, and it is our job to take care of the image bearers of Jesus. People are more than their circumstances, more than their place of birth, and definitely more than what they can do for you. I've seen a lot of people sharing that we should support immigrants because these are the people that our economy is built on. They're the people that pick our food. But why should we should love them more for who they are and not what they do for our community, the jobs that they do. What a shame it is if we don't take advantage of the richness of learning about each other. There is something to be learned by sitting with people we don't know, gleaning wisdom from their rich cultures and their experience from the situations that they have gone through. The things we can learn from them are immeasurable. Jesus' heart cried out for the foreigner, the widow, and the orphan, the most vulnerable populations. These groups historically had less rights. Loving people is about loving people no matter what. Jesus sat with the marginalized. He listened and became their friend. He sat with the people that society wouldn't take another look at, the people that we would try to avoid, the homeless man slumped over on the sidewalk, the mom with a sign on the street begging for rent money, the immigrant that fled war that practices a different religion than you. These are the people Jesus would have been sitting with, loving them, making them feel seen. Deuteronomy 10:19 says, "And you are to love those who are foreigners, for you yourselves were foreigners in Egypt." Romans 12:13-18 says, "Share with the Lord's people, you who are in need. Practice hospitality. Rejoice with those who rejoice. Mourn with those who mourn. Live in harmony with one another. Do not be proud, but be willing to associate with people of low position. Do not be conceited. Do not pay an evil for evil. Be careful to do what is right in the eyes of everyone. If it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live in peace with everyone." Colossians 3:11, "There is no Gentile or Jew, circumcised or uncircumcised, barbarian, Scyth, slave or free, but Jesus is all, and all is all." Oops. In Jeremiah 7:5-7, "If you really change your ways and your actions and deal with each other justly, if you do not oppress the foreigner, the fatherless, or the widow, and do not shed innocent blood in his place, and if you do not follow other gods to your own harm, and I will let you live in this place, the land I have given your ancestors." Again, Psalm 146:9, "The Lord watches over the stranger. He upholds the orphan and the widow." There's so many verses in the Bible that give you the opportunity to lean into the foreigner and what God has called you to do for them. We were called to love people. We were strangers in a foreign land. Our citizenship is not here, it's in heaven. We are in a foreign land. This is not our land. We are called to love people as they are. Nowhere in the Bible, in these verses, did it say to love the person that looks like you, that believes like you, that works like you, that loves like you, that makes you feel comfortable. Let's say you report a family to ICE, a carpenter and a teen mom wife who just had a baby who were fleeing their home to Bethlehem without papers. If you can imagine that, but you can't wrap your head around the single mom down the street that speaks a different language than you, it's not Christianity. When did we take the humanity out of this? We started to look around and not see people for who they are, but were created and who they were created, but as something to push back against. How often do you spend time with people that make you feel uncomfortable? How often do you sit in the moment and ask yourself what it is about them that makes you uncomfortable? How often do you allow yourselves to be in a situation where you are the minority? It's very eye-opening. When was the last time you were in a situation you found it difficult to communicate? We don't let people come as they are. We don't let them come with their culture, their language, their customs, their immigration status. We have conscious or unconscious bias towards people, and we don't see the needs to reach out of our own stuff. We want people to come to us, but we haven't created a space safe enough for them to do so. People have a story to share, stories of where they came from, a beautiful God-written story of dreams and hopes for the future. God allows us to be a part of the work because it not just benefits them, but it benefits us as much from these transformative relationships. Over the history of the years, there have been many steps towards different things. Juneteenth is the celebration of the emancipation of slavery in the United States, but that didn't bring equality. We still had segregation, Jim Crow laws, and that still didn't end with equality. It wasn't until we had two people that fought the Supreme Court did biracial marriage become legal 58 years ago. There's someone in this room that happened in their lifetime. We still have work to do, friends. We've got to learn to love people better, to speak up about issues that don't affect us personally, but affect our brothers and sisters. Because if it affects you, my brother, it affects me. A part of loving people is staying informed of issues that are happening around the world. A big problem is indifference. We've become indifferent to the issues that don't affect us. It doesn't affect my daily life, so why should it matter? Because God called you to it. God called you to care. The more that it affects people, people matter. People who have arrived here for safety, for security, reunions with their families don't feel safe. The narrative has flipped and people are now questioning their motives. The real reason they are here, they're being questioned, detained, and deported without due process. It doesn't stop there. U.S. citizens are being taken from schools, work, graduations, and off the streets. The laws that are changing now are crazy. 10,000 more ICE officers were just approved to be hired just this week. They can now legally pick people up after racially profiling. The reason U.S. citizens are being deported is because there's no longer due process. It's not because they're looking for criminals, it's because they're getting picked up and shipped off without being able to prove who they are. It's our job as Christians to do something, to make our homes, our kitchens, our schools, our homes a place where people feel safe, to stand in our places of influence and make sure that others feel safe. Why does this matter? God is a God of injustice. Jesus hung out with those that were outcasts, that were not cool, people that were not the center of attention, or at least not for any good reason. I think we forget this. Jesus overturned tables for the sake of injustice. Why are we still sitting at those tables? Injustice should make you mad. What is happening in the world should make you mad. As an image bearer of Jesus, it should upset you how other image of bearers are being treated. I want to give you 5 things that you can practically do to get involved. You can call your representatives. I know people don't like doing that, but it really matters. I worked on an advocacy group, and there was a lady on there that would call her representative every morning as part of her morning routine. You don't have to get that intense with it, but your voice matters. When you call, the representative's office assumes that there's that, and everyone has their different way of categorizing it, or calculating it. But if you call, they assume 20 other people have that same opinion. So the more often you call and the more people that call, they assume more and more people care about that issue and they focus on it. Talk about it. Having these conversations and telling stories humanizes the issue again. These people are real. They're image bearers of Christ. Volunteer. Many organizations need volunteers more than they ever have before, especially with the close of the resettlement program in the U.S. Myself and many hundreds of other people in the King County area have lost their jobs. Because of that, because there's no funding, they can't hire people for the work they have to do. So volunteers are the backbone of the industry. Know your rights and the rights of your neighbor. You can practice your right, the right to be silent, and you don't ever have to sign anything you don't want to. Help your neighbor, love them, cook them a meal, drop off groceries, learn about their lives. Matthew 24:40 says, "The king will reply, 'Truly, truly, I tell you, whatever you did for the least of these, my brothers and sisters, you did for me.'" So now is the time that we can open it up to questions. If anyone has questions, comments, I can also show, this is a picture of me in a refugee camp. I got the privilege of working in one for my master's degree. This is in Malawi, Africa. There's like a refugee camp. I visited there, and there is an Adventist church in this camp. I went for service, and they translated from Congolese to Rohingya, from Rohingya to Chichewa, which is the Malawi language, and then into English so that we could understand. And they just asked us to never forget that they're there. There's 36,000 children there, so you can only imagine how many, I don't remember the exact amount of adults that are there, but there's Adventists going through this experience with you, so keep them in your prayers and your thoughts.
Thank you very much, Lauren. We really appreciate you coming to share this topic with us. Before we dive into questions, could you tell us a little bit more about, you used to work directly in
Yes.
contact with many refugees, asylum seekers, asylees, etc. What were you doing? What was your job involved in, and how were you able to engage?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So I used to work for World Relief. It's a refugee resettlement agency. There's 9 in Washington State. And it's part of the refugee resettlement program, which has shut down in this country, but basically the government brings in people. The president makes a determination every year of the number of refugees that they will allow into the country. And then that number of people gets distributed through all the agencies. So my job was to oversee that program. I had 15 caseworkers under me, and we would do everything from picking them up from the airport, providing housing, making sure that they could get jobs, helping them with legal paperwork if they had left people back in their home country. And basically anything that you would need to do in your 18, 21 years of life, they do in a 90-day period. So getting work permits, driver's license, kids enrolled in school, and medical insurance, and having to learn how all of those systems work because they're all very different country to country. A lot of refugees that come, or that wait, specifically that wait in refugee camps, often age out. So once you turn 21, you have to reapply under your own case and start the line over again. So in my time in the refugee camps, there were just many families that were separated because their children would age out. And then they would hopefully be able to petition to have them join them here when they got here. But that's my experience.
Excellent, thank you. And we'll be keeping you in prayer as God takes you on the next adventure. We're sad to say that you will let go, but I'm sure God is going to open up more doors for you. I just want to add some more information. Lauren mentioned one thing that I'd never had done up until about 2 months ago, which is call in your representative. One of the reasons why I didn't is because call who? And
Yeah.
say what? And where?
Mm-hmm.
And so I just want to share with you an app that I came across which has been incredibly amazing. It's called 5 Calls. Literally type into your app store 5 Calls. And in this app, there are a bunch of different topics that you can call your representative of. You click on one that you might be interested in, and it gives you the name and the number of all the representatives that you may want to call. Not just that, just because there are people like me who have excuses and say, I do not know what to say, it scripts you exactly what you can say to your representative in order to try and make your voice known. So you don't even have to come up with the best language. The script is there on the screen. You follow the script, you log the call, and that's it. It's done. It's literally as simple as that. And especially for myself as an immigrant who is not an American, I came up with the excuse and thought, well, I shouldn't be the one who's calling. US citizens need to be calling. Which is not the case whatsoever, because every voice literally tallies, as you said, 20 more other voices who probably track in the same kind of way. So I want to encourage you and support what.
And you don't have to call if you have like a fear of calling. You can email. Does the same thing.
Yes. All the contacts are there, and there's a script for the email as well. You can literally copy the email, and
there's lots of resources like that. So there's truly no excuse.
A question that I had for you is, prior to you working for, was it World
Relief?
World Relief. What was your engagement with refugees? And there's context to my question. Most of us who live very comfortable lives in Western Suburbia, we don't really come into many circles. We don't have many circles where we engage with refugees, immigrants, etc. Now, for some of us who are medical professionals or whatever it is, maybe that's the way that you engage. But for most of us, intentionally, I don't see many spaces like that. What's that transition been like for you?
Yeah, I will say you probably have come in contact with a refugee just living in the greater King County area without even knowing it. There are so many in this area. I live in Kent. My office was in Kent. Kent is one of the top 5 most diverse cities in the US, if you weren't aware of that. So there are so many people that have come to this area that are around you that you may not know are a refugee or an immigrant. But I think just keeping a lookout, you can often spot them by how confused they might look, or especially in the grocery store, they're trying to figure things out. They're trying to pay with food stamps. Those are usually the people that fall into that category that haven't been here very long. But there are ways to get involved through, if you're wanting to do something more practical, get involved with organizations that do that work. And there's very many practical ways to do that. You can tutor people in English, you can drive people to medical appointments, lots of different things, but they're around you, they're living among you. You just may not be aware of it, but talking to them as much as you can. The universal language is a smile. Just smiling, or like shaking a little kid's hand, or engaging with people's children is a way to just immediately get them to engage with you in a way that's not off-putting, like you're just saying hello, like smiling at them or like nodding at them. Is just something that I think is a very easy first step to engage with people that you may not otherwise.
Excellent, thank you. For those who are online, I apologize. I did say that we were going to cut the feed at this point to give us opportunity to have an intimate discussion. And so at this stage, I wish all of those online a happy Sabbath. You can catch up on the presentation just by going to our website, and you'll be able to follow up on what has been said today. So we wish you a happy Sabbath and goodbye, and we are so sorry to see you go. We look forward to engaging with you more. Happy Sabbath.